Alright, good evening everyone. Welcome to today's session. Just a quick sound check. I think everything is working fine. If you are here, and of course, if you have any questions, feel free to put it into the chat. I'll be keeping watch on any particular questions that you guys have, and of course, answer your questions accordingly. Okay. So as usual, every week we'll jump over into the market, talk about some of the outlook as well as the potential opportunities for the week. Okay, and I'll also be highlighting, um, in terms of the techniques that we're using over here, will be based on Eddy Wave principles plus the SMC model. Okay, so there's a combination of like two methodologies into it. So obviously, if you have some questions that you'd like to clarify, just feel free to let me know. Okay. So with that said, let's start off with the dollar index. Dollar index last week we did have the non-farm NFP data. It was pretty positive for the dollar, but of course you can see that overall dollar index as of last Friday until today, we're essentially in a consolidation. Not much of a major move or development. So from a anyway time frame perspective, H4, right? I'm personally expecting that. I would say expecting, but personally, I'm looking at this where the WXY structure may have completed. The market came into the previous swing high here as well, which is where our key level is. Um, did a decent reaction off that key level. So obviously, right now, it's you can see it as a crossroad where we can either take it the WXY structure wave 4 is completed, or alternatively, right, this WXY is just the first push up. This can come back down correctively. Okay, maybe come and retag this key level low and then one more wave back up to develop into a bigger structure of a WXY or wave 4. Okay, and then after which probably we can expect the dollar to move lower from there. So at this moment here, what we're looking at is potentially be patient, right? So if you take a look at the table on the bottom left, what I have for all my charts and analysis is we have a primary sequence which indicate the overarching trend and direction that we're looking at. We have the expectation as well, which is more towards the near term, what we are looking or what we're expecting the market to do. And then the trade plan is what are some of the trade ideas that we can focus on, right? So you can see primary sequence is still bearish, which means the overarching direction for the dollar it's due to the downside. Expectation over here is that price may have completed a three-wave structure, right, which I've kind of highlighted just now, the WXY. So likely, we need to be a little bit patient. That's why you can see the trade plan here is be patient and see how price will react first, right? Because we're at a crossroad, right? Price just completed a three-wave move. Right now, we need a little bit of time. But looking at this so far, right, with this current development that's pulling back, seems like it's corrective in nature. It's not really impulsive, rejecting the key level at the top. So there's a good possibility this would actually just simply develop into another move back up, right? So likely into something like this, which can break the high at 100.30. Okay, so keep an eye on that. Then, of course, if you look into the euro, there is that possibility have the inverse of it, right? So look at the primary sequence is bullish, yes. Expectation is that price can also have completed the WXY over here, came into a key level, tag it, did some reaction. But the trade plan you can see over here is basically be patient and then of course observe how price will react. If you can break above 1.1425, which is basically this high, then we can expect the resumption of the bullish move, right? So then that would be where wave 4 is completed and we can expect more upside. However, if we don't get an impulsive break above, price just trickled its way up, tag that swing high, and then kind of made a reaction back down, then it's going to be the same as dollar index, where this can be a 1, 2, and then one more move down before another push back up, right? So overall, I think we need to give a little bit of time simply because we're at a crossroad, right? Price has completed a three-way structure. We really want to see what's next. Okay, so some of this major pass will probably need a bit of time. Then we have the pound. Okay, pound dollar over here, the primary sequence is bullish. However, the expectation is for it to pull back before another move back up. I think overarching direction on the pound is definitely still upside, but in the near term, we might see a little bit of pullback. Um, at the moment, what you see on the chart is that we have the orange sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which can potentially complete the bigger structure of wave 5, and then therefore we're expecting this pullback, right? The alternate point of view is that this wave 5 is still in development, and over here this can be a diagonal-ish kind of structure, okay, before the move down as a pullback, right? So again, in terms of like this pair here, personally, I would also take note of the current swing high, which is where the invalidation level is. Okay, if price actually break above that at 1.3440, you would then expect a bigger diagonal structure to complete first, right? So right now the simplest expectation in terms of like pattern structure would be a simple three wave W X Y. Okay, so obviously you can look up for potential sell setup, right? So the trade plan here is look for short-term sell trade. But for me personally, if I follow my criteria and my conditions to get involved in the setup, ideally I want to see the market actually break this swing low first, right, as a form of confirmation that the retracement is started, right? But for now, we haven't really got any break below, so I'm just being patient at the moment. Okay. Aussie dollar, very similar to the pound. Price is definitely pushing higher, but again, we're expecting some sort of a retracement soon, right? So the expectation, you can see price to make a retracement. A trade plan here is for price to make an impulsive break below 6340 to tell us that, okay, 6340 is basically this low, okay, to tell us that the pullback indeed has started, right? And of course, when this develop, we'll then wait for a retracement back up that will give us a sell setup. Okay, so that's the entire trade plan, and then we're kind of expecting this as a 1, 2, and then eventually still upside. Okay. Now some traders might be a little bit more aggressive and start looking out for earlier sign of a sell. That's possible as well, right? Maybe you want to go down to a lower time frame, maybe the 15-minute intraday, to spot out the setup. Okay. So yeah, this one for me right now, there's really nothing much. Pretty similar to the pound, right? So pound dollar, Aussie dollar. I'm just gonna be patient at the moment. Then we have the dollar Canadian. Dollar Canadian, the structure currently is pretty clear, pretty straightforward. We're seeing this as a diagonal. Okay, and this diagonal may have potentially completed based on the wave structure, right? So we have the internal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. May have completed. The only part that needs that final confirmation is for price to actually break this swing high. Okay, so this swing high here is 1.3865. So you can see the trade plan here is basically wait for an impulsive move, right? Because the expectation is for price to have completed the diagonal. We want to see price break that. Then we can look out for the upside and target here to be conservative, the key level at 1.3980. Okay. So this is something we can look out for. We may get something within the week. Today is Tuesday, so we do have some time for price to still develop into things, and maybe get it set up by maybe end of the week, right? So you can add this into your watch list. Keep a lookout on the dollar Canadian and see how things are going to develop moving forward. Okay. Then next up here is the dollar yen. Dollar yen is a little bit tricky at the moment. The current pullback looks a little bit sharp, which isn't really ideal for the potential move to the upside, right? So you can see the expectation here is price have completed a 3 wave, right? So again, WXY, this is where the swing low is. That's where the invalidation, meaning if price actually break below that, we would then take it as this 3 wave is completed and we can expect more downside, right? But until then, there's still that possible scenario where this WXY can be wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. Then we need to push down, kind of coming back up to retest the swing high. So I think overall direction on the dollar yen is still bearish, right? It's just a matter of like this move up as a short-term possible trade. Is this something that you're keen to look out for? If not, then I would say wait for this to break, and then that pullback would naturally be the sell trade that you want to look into. Okay, if I zoom out on this, you can see that the overarching trend is definitely still bearish. Okay, so zooming back in, that's what we're looking out for dollar yen. Yeah, so that's the plan, right? That's the trajectory that we can expect price to develop. So keep an eye on that. Right, then we have gold. I think gold is very clear for the week. Okay, overarching direction bullish, primary sequence is still bullish. Expectation is for price to have completed this WXY, with X being a consolidated triangle structure. We tag and break that low, and then we had a nice little break to the upside, breaking this high as well, right? So this is the part where we can say, the confirmation is there. Okay, you can see that price has actually taken out the previous high. Okay, so we can see that we are looking at more upside, right? We can expect that this 1, 2, 3 is completed, and then as long as price respect this swing low at 3200, we're going to expect more upside, and any sort of a pullback here would present itself as a potential buy, right? And we're going to continue to expect gold here to break new highs, right? So definitely this is one of the clearest setups and opportunity within a week. If you're familiar with the SMC model, okay, you have the fair value gap here as well, right? So definitely you can keep an eye on that when price pulls back maybe towards the 3300 level, right? So 3,300 to between like 3275, right? That area here would definitely provide some key level for you to look for a upside. Okay, so gold is definitely one of the clearer ones that you can keep watch. Then we have silver. Silver for me is not the clearest of all. The difference, of course, you can see is that this swing high hasn't been broken, right? Whereas gold has. So between the two, I would stick to gold, because gold would, definitely present a clearer upside structure. Silver here, yes, they tend to move together, but my trade plan is just being patient, because if this here hasn't been broken, then this can simply be a pullback for another push down, maybe a deeper pullback before the move up, right? So I'm just going to be patient on silver, but if today you want to be looking at buying the commodities, precious metal, then my suggestion is keep an eye on gold. Okay, keep an eye on gold. Okay, again, if you have any questions, just feel free to put it into the chat. Then we have crude oil. Crude oil here, primary sequence is bearish. Expectation is if you can get a corrective pullback towards this key high, then we can expect more downside, right? So we're looking at the key area around 59.85. Okay, not the clearest structure overall. We did get break of this swing low, right? So that put us at the swing high here, invalidation level. But at the same time, we're also can see it as tagging that low, right? So we can also see it as, okay, the low has been tagged. This can actually go higher. But as of now, we're basically trading within the range of the swing high and the swing low. Okay, not the best in terms of the pattern structure, in terms of like potential trade. So that's why my plan here is just simply be patient. Okay, but if you really want to pick an area, a level to keep an eye on for potential things to trade into. Um, Keep an eye on this level, right? The swing high here at 59.85. S&P is also a very clear structure right now. The H4 sequence you can see on the top right is neutral. But for me, I'm actually preparing to switch this eventually to turning bullish, right? So we are actually in a transition from neutral to turning bullish. I think the structure is very clear, right? We can't get a break of this high. Market is basically making higher highs, right? At least from this time frame perspective as well. So we are gonna continue to expect upside, right? And the expectation here is for price to pull back first, then look to trade to the upside, right? And where would we expect price to pull back towards this swing low, right? So if you can put that as a key level, okay, that would put you at 5430. Okay, 5430 is a potential area to be buying into. Now, if you're familiar with Fibonacci, you can take from swing low, okay, market to swing high. A key area that would present somewhere between the 50% mark as well, right? Very, very close to that. Right. Yeah, so that's the area to pay attention to for potential buy, right? So we expect price to pull back towards there. Look out for it. That might present a buy setup for you to take it to the upside. Okay. Pound yen, very similar to the dollar yen perspective. Slight difference in terms of the structure development. But I'm a little bit more cautious on this because of how this is stretching itself. Okay. Because of this extended part of the move, I'm actually projecting pound yen as not a simple 3-wave move to the upside, but more of a 5-wave structure, right? So that's why I can see a wave 3 expectation over here. Okay, so we're kind of expecting this as 1, 2, and then not a very impulsive wave 3, but it's kind of like extended. So this entire leg here can be a wave 3. Okay, so right now the invalidation level is going to be here. As long as price respect the 189.95, we are looking at upside. Okay, and the primary target right now is at 194.85. Alright, so we'll see how things roll from here. If you're looking at trading the dollar yen, and then you're also looking at the pound yen, then obviously if you're trading both direction to the upside, just bear in mind the risk exposure as well, right? Because if you're buying the pound yen up, and then you're buying the the dollar yen up, okay, essentially you're looking at both trade similar direction. Yeah, just factor that as part of your risk exposure. Okay, if you're looking at this. Then we have odd yen, right? I think among the 3 yen pairs, odd yen is actually a little bit clearer, but it's presenting slightly different kind of direction in the near term, right? So this one here, we're looking at potentially a leading diagonal, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Therefore, we're expecting the deeper pullback, which price seems to be developing. Of course, the confirmation is for price to break this, and then we can look at this as a 1, 2, maybe even deeper move here, 3, and then going back up. If price can break this, then we might, depending on whether you want to trade the counter trend, we might actually look to short-term sell towards the next key level. Okay, but again, that will be something next week. I don't think it's something that we need to be overly focused on within the week, because this week here the expectations for this to pull back, right? If we pull back towards this level, we see a decent bounce. We can see that, or we can even say that this can be a completed B move here, and we can start to look for upside, right? So that's a very, very possible scenario. Okay, so this level, if I were to just mark it out, Okay, that would be around 90.55 or 90.6. Um, yeah, that would likely be the key level to keep an eye on, right? If this reaction here is not really a decent bounce back up, then we can expect short-term downside towards 88.30. Okay, so that's the view on Aussie yen. Next we have pound odd. Pound odd is super clear right now. Okay, this morning we haven't really get this pullback, but right now we're getting this pullback. I think it's getting very very clear. We can actually put in our fit retracement right now, and kind of expect a three-wave move and more downside, right? So the sequence here you can see is neutral right now, but we are expecting it to turn bearish soon, right? Price has completed a 1, 2, 3. This is currently the swing high. As long as price respects this invalidation level, 2110.35. As long as price respect this, meaning it doesn't break above that, we can continue to expect downside. Okay, so ideally this pulls back in sets of 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we can look for sell trade setup. Now, speaking of that, can bring you over to the lower time frame. Okay, so the setup over here, you can see this is pretty similar to what I've shown you on the forward, right? On the previous chart, we have this high here. This is the low, price broke it. Okay, and basically, right now we have this impulsive late, right? For me, the setup here that I'm looking at potentially going into maybe tomorrow or later part of this week is the entry around 2.0840. Okay, 2.0840. So what you see is that we have this internal sweep. Okay, with this internal sweep of liquidity, right, which is where the previous high is. Price broke that, but came back down and took out all this low. Okay, so that is what we call liquidity sweep and a break of structure. Okay, so that kind of indicate that alright, this is carrying momentum. If you can get a pullback towards the 67 fit, roughly around there, is not like a magical number. We can look to sell this, right, in the expectation that the direction will resume with the overarching direction and trend. Okay, the 67 fit is basically a ratio where if you take a trade at the 67 retracement and then your stop is at the 100%, and your target is basically at where the previous low is, which is the 0%, it will give you a 1:2 risk reward. Okay, so essentially that's why the 67 is basically used instead of like 61.8, right? But again, it's not like you need to definitely take trades only from that level, but it's just basically a reference point to give us a very nice ratio of 1:2. Okay, so yep, that's on the pound odd. Okay, a potential setup that you can keep an eye on for the week, right? Add this into your watch list. This might set you up maybe on Thursday, right? Okay, last pair that I have in my list would be Bitcoin. Okay, so Bitcoin over here, we are looking at the possible diagonal structures completed. Again, very very similar to what's happening on the odd yen, right? So we get this push. Obviously, we haven't break that low, right? If we can break that low, that would confirm, or say give us the extra confirmation that maybe the pullback has started. And again, as long as price respect this invalidation, remain below this invalidation at 97950, then we can expect one more push, right? So we're kind of expecting a simple three-wave WXY coming back to where that previous kind of support area is. Okay, so if you're into cryptocurrencies, right, a break of this key level, okay, a break of this key level, 92915 will give you the extra confirmation. Okay, a break of this would give you that. confirmation that you can start to potentially look out for a deeper pullback and then a short-term trade to the downside. All good? Yep. Yeah, so any questions, right? If not, then I would do a summary. Okay, I'll summarize and give you guys a summary of what to keep an eye on for the week. Um, Generally, the major pairs like euro dollar, pound dollar, Aussie dollar would definitely need a little bit more time for clarity. Hey, dollar CAD, we talk about it. Potentially look for upside if we can get a break, above that swing high here. You can expect more upside, right? So this one definitely can keep it on. Dollar yen as well. We did talk about potentially can look for upside as long as price respect that invalidation, right? So you might start to look for potential buy trade, okay, on the lower time frame perhaps. So dollar CAD, dollar yen, potentially something to look out for. Gold definitely. Again, this is one of the clearer one for the week itself, as I mentioned. Okay, wait for the pullback. That's a definite buy direction that I'm definitely looking into. Okay. Silver nothing much, crude oil nothing much, right? S&P is clear as well. Wait for the pullback. Okay. Pound yen, we talk about it, very similar to odd yen. Just be aware of your risk exposure. Aussie yen quite clear towards the downside, but right now probably not going to look to sell it, but more of like waiting for this to react around that first key level and see if you want to buy, okay, or it might present some short-term sell, right? So this one here probably going to take some time. Pound odd is another one very clear, right? So I think if I'm going to pick top two that you probably want to focus on more within the week, it's going to be gold and pound Australia. Okay, gold and pound Australia. Good. So I hope that's clear for this week's trade ideas and trading plan to help you plan ahead for the week itself. All right. So that's all that I have. All the best for the week, and I'll see you guys in the next session. Yeah?